I'm Patrick Pacheco. Coming up on Theater All the Moving Parts, a chat with two theater artists, Chris Ashley and Brian Moreland, who are going pedal to the metal as Broadway reopens. Hello, and welcome to Theater All the Moving Parts. I'm your host, Patrick Pacheco, and we are back live and at Joe Allen's with a couple of theater dynamos who are pedal to the metal as Broadway reopens. Brian Moreland, producer of the acclaimed Thoughts of a Colored Man, and Christopher Ashley, Tony-winning director of Come From Away, who is following that up with, wait for it, Diana, the musical. Welcome, Brian. Welcome, Chris. It is so good to be here up close and personal with you two at this moment in Broadway history. I wanted to start by this conversation just asking you, how are you feeling at this moment in Broadway history?
I'm going to start out with the word hopeful. I think there's a lot of possibility in this moment, and I think there's a lot of excitement about coming back to Broadway, back to theater, and being in the presence of these wonderful plays and musicals again.
I'm going to echo that. I feel hopeful. I feel excited. I feel very excited about our community as a whole. It's been so hard to walk down these streets and not see people, to not see your doorman or the usher or your friends who are across the street in that particular theater. And so to walk down the streets again and see life coming back, that makes me so excited.
And how would you describe the morale of your respective companies? We should say, obviously, that you're producing Thoughts of a Colored Man by Keenan Scott II. And it is a medieval morality play in which 7 actors play the personifications, and let me read them, personifications of wisdom, passion, depression, lust, happiness, love, and anger. How would you say the morale of your company is at this point?
They are riding on high. Each one of them beyond excited. They speak to each other every single day. They text me every single day. They're on social media back and forth together. They're very excited to get to Broadway. Many of them are making their first time on stage, so there are a lot of Broadway debuts happening, a lot of veterans returning back to the stage. Keith David has not been back to the stage in quite some time. Tony nominee Forrest McClendon has not been back for quite some time. So it's very, very exciting for them.
Steve Broadnax is making his Broadway debut as a director. Your conversations with him about the cast and about reemerging onto Broadway now, and you start performances October 1st, correct? What have been your conversations with Steve about how best to prepare the actors for this?
It's been a lot of TLC. I call it, it's bedside manner, right? Good doctors have practiced excellent bedside manner. And those are the conversations Steve and I have been having, just to really make sure that he's able to take care of the cast and lead them in this particular moment. There's so much uncertainty that has been in the air. And so to really be the captain of that ship, to really know that we're on board with him, riding in his car, to bring us into Broadway, it's been really thrilling for him.
And Chris, you've got 2 casts that you are leading into this season. You've got Diana, obviously, with Gina DeWall,
yes,
right, as Diana. Diana had started performances briefly before Broadway was shut down. And then it is going to resume performances December 1st, is that correct?
November 1st.
November 1st. And what has been your process in terms of getting the Diana cast up and ready for it?
So, as you said, we were midway through previews. So, during the year and a half since Broadway was last performing, we workshopped on Zoom the changes that we would have done in previews. We shot a film for Netflix, and now we're about to go back into rehearsals ourselves for a November 1st start.
And it starts airing on Netflix on
October 1st.
On October 1st. Did that period of filming it help in terms of keeping the cast together and fresh in their roles?
I think it did. It's been almost a year since we shot it. And people were so hungry to be back in a room with other human beings. And so the cast kind of like bonded more strongly than I've ever seen a cast bond. I think the surprising thing about the time off is because of social media and because of Zoom, these casts have kept in an excellent touch, and they're as tight as a family, really.
Mm-hmm. He made history during the pandemic. I mean, that's historic, what you've done.
It was an extraordinary opportunity to shoot both of my Broadway shows during that time.
That's right, because you also shot Come From Away, which began airing on September 10th. Just prior, obviously, to the 20th anniversary of September 11th. I don't think we need to explain what Come From Away is, other than 7,000 people were stranded in Gander, Newfoundland.
Understand.
You'll learn, when you go see the show, you'll learn how to pronounce it. And was it ever a possibility that you might have filmed Thoughts of a Colored Man?
It's a very strong possibility, and it has come up, and it's coming up.
It's coming up. Since we're in a celebratory mood, I want to talk to you about the part in Thoughts of a Colored Man, and that is happiness. Would you go into a little bit about happiness within this, 7-character play?
The person playing the role is Brian Terrell Clark. Happiness is a very interesting character. It's a multi-layered character that is a man that just happens to be a same-gender loving man. And there's a very quiet conversation within himself about acceptance within his community and finding his personal community within the world. And so it's a really thrilling role, and it's a very diverse role in the nature of it.
And also, he's middle class. He's bougie, as they say. Bougie. Professional and bougie.
Colloquially, yes. He's a bougie man moving into a gentrified neighborhood. And the conversation that evolves with him is really about, people didn't want to live in this neighborhood maybe a year or two ago, but now people want to live in the neighborhood because it's been renovated, and there's a Whole Foods on the corner, and there's a Paris Baguette on the corner, and it's all of these stores, and now this man wants to come back to his neighborhood, so to speak.
And is his defensiveness, Brian, does it stem from his middle class background or his gay background?
It is his class. It's the conversation between striving and achieving in the world and what you often give up in the community aspect or the connectivity to your community, right? For him, it's his connectivity to his other Black brothers and sisters. So as he's growing and progressing in the world, he's getting further and further away from a Black community. And that is what he's been looking for, which is what brings him back to the neighborhood.
Happiness, you captured in Come From Away, without a doubt.
The segue.
The segue. Because you captured the joy in a musical that people initially thought would be the 9/11 musical, and how could you capture joy there? But it was spontaneous from the very beginning of the show to the very end of the show. Do you capture happiness in Diana?
I think so. She's a really extraordinary person. You even today, more than 20 years after her death, you can't go by a newsstand without her being on the front cover of multiple magazines. I mean, people just can't get enough of her. And I think some of that is there was a X factor kind of magnetism to her. And some of that is that she really found her voice. She started off very young in this impossibly bright spotlight. And I think the Palace was really like, sit in the corner and maybe don't talk so much. And she really found a way to support funding for AIDS, landmines. I mean, she had this incredible philanthropic life. And she managed to negotiate through this very crowded marriage with her and Charles and Camilla. So I think there's admiration and there's fascination. And I think there's a lot of joy. It's certainly there's a lot of dancing, and extensive score with an amazing orchestration.
And your choreographer is?
Kelly Devine.
Kelly Devine, who also choreographed Come From Away.
Yes, we spent every moment for 5 years together, Kelly and I.
What's fascinating about Diana coming into this climate is obviously you have not only had The Crown and all that interest, you've also had the Oprah interview with Diana's children. Absolutely. How does that change it? How does that impact, if at all, what they're going to see?
I think so many things about the current moment wouldn't have been possible without Diana. You know, when Charles had to pick a bride, he had to pick a virgin, highborn, and now his son is married to an American, divorced, commoner, mixed race. Like it's like everything that is possible was because Diana kind of blew up the rule book.
Right. And in terms of Thoughts of a Colored Man coming into this environment, how is that impacted? How it will be received, or how you think it may well be received?
I think that people are leaning into new stories. That's all. I think that people are curious about other communities, other people, other lifestyles, and I think that all of that will support the joy that's within Thoughts of a Colored Man.
And talk to us a little bit about the title of it, the use of colored man. What was Keenan up to?
So if Keenan Scott were sitting here with us, he would talk about the art of a word and what a word does to us. The word colored is so layered historically, right? It comes from a very turbulent time in America, but it also comes with great pride for some people. It comes with great shame for some people. And so to put it into a title, to really think about it, and to string these thoughts together of a Black man's experience in the 21st century through these 7 characters. It was all about an exploration of the word itself and what that word means and what it can mean, what it meant then, what it means now, and what it means moving forward in our lives.
And in terms of the idea of a medieval morality play of all things, and in terms of the personification of these various emotions, when you read the play, what made you want to produce it?
I had never read anything like that in my entire life. That's it. Every producer, every director probably says the same thing, right? I read the script and was like, oh, I've never read that before in my life. But being a Black man growing up in Southern California, I had always thought that experiences that I had were literally just my own. And I never thought that there was a person in the world going through the exact same thing as me. When I read Thoughts of a Colored Man, that's what was on the script. It was as if he had written my life into this play. That's how it felt. It was scary how accurate he was. And then putting people in the room together, every man around the table says the same thing. I've never had my life on stage this way. I've never been able to just speak, to just give thoughts and be profound without singing and dancing and tapping. Oh, it's all great. It's all great.
There's a sequel.
It's all great.
The singing and tap dancing version of it, part 2.
It's all great, but usually Black men on stage are very rarely able to just stand center stage and just give their thoughts and just speak and speak eloquently in that wonderful language that heightened language that we love to hear so much. And that's what this play does, and that's what it did for me when I read it.
And it's set in Bed-Stuy. And one of the areas in which they explore it within the Bed-Stuy community is the barbershop, in which one of the characters says that nobody's closer than your barber, maybe God and maybe mother.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is the barber so close?
The barbershop is a very layered experience as well for a lot of Black people, whether the barbershop for men and women, the beauty salon for women. But for the barbers and for the males in particular that go to the shop, it's the only place that males can gather and literally remove the masks that they wear in life. That's it. Whether you are a corporate CEO, whether you are a gardener, whether you are an usher or a producer, you sit in that chair, you get your haircut, and you share thoughts about the day. Whether it's something happening on television, something you just experienced on the train, in the paper, a current event, a passerby on the street. We all have thoughts, and so the barbershop provides a place that you can share all of those thoughts freely, and they range from politics to sexual to family to fantasies on the television, everything.
And the barber is the philosopher king of the community? Because he kind of tells it like it is.
Exactly. And you're able to tell it like it is, right? So without fear of repercussions, without someone judging your particular point of view in life, the haircut is the reason you go. but the conversation in the shop is why you stay.
And we were speaking about the role of humor, especially at this fraught period. It's always necessary, but particularly now. How does the humor of Diana, or Come From Away, help heal what's going on now?
Well, Come From Away is a show about kindness and generosity, especially at moments of great difficulty and trauma. I think as people come in to see our show about events 20 years ago, they're going to also be thinking about the world as it exists now, and how much both humor and also the impulse to take care of each other is going to be the way that we're going to get through this.
And the humor in Diana. The book is by Joe DiPietro.
Joe DiPietro, and the score is by David Bryan. The two of them together really mine for the sort of the darker emotional colors, but also there's incredible humor, and in the ridiculousness of the collision between the kind of world of the monarchy and Buckingham Palace and her very young, very 19-year-old. She loves Duran Duran. She's like her idea of a good time is out at a disco, and his idea of a good time is hearing a solo cello concerto. So like watching these two different generations try to make a marriage is very, very funny.
The clash of these two worlds. And Brian, in the course of the 7 personifications that we discussed earlier, I have a feeling that maybe one of the more humorous personifications is lust.
Yes, Lust is very funny in this show. It's played by a wonderful young man named Da Vinci. Da Vinci is currently making his huge Starz premiere with another show called Black Mafia Family that's produced by 50 Cent. He also comes from the TV show All American. But the role of Lust in the show, it's not always lust in the way it's in the literal sense of it, but he offers us a lot of comic relief in the show. A lot of comic relief.
And when you, in your long directing career, have you ever encountered an actor who balks, just says, I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to look like an idiot, I'm just not going to do it? How do you provide a context in which you might want them to try it at least?
Occasionally, but I have to say, I think overall, actors are the bravest people I know. They have to auditioning is the scariest thing ever, right? That you have to put yourself on the line and do all this preparation and walk in the room, and most of the people aren't going to get the job. So you have to be able to take no again and again and again before you get to the yes. So when it's called for, you use psychology and parenting and sometimes a stick, but usually a carrot. And you get other people to egg them on too. But usually actors are the first one to say, what do you need? What can I do? And they want to take the chance.
I want to talk a bit about the marketing in the post-pandemic world. And particularly because on one hand, you have the advantage of people just really eager to come back to the theater. On the other hand, you also have the situation of people wondering, when can I come? How could I come? To which should I come? To which place should I come? In terms of Diana and marketing Diana, how do you answer to the question, well, I think I know the story?
I guess I don't hear that much. I think there's an endless fascination about her. I think the question of, am I ready to go back to the theater, is a really interesting question. I probably will wear a mask when I go to see plays around Broadway this year. But there's this incredible hunger to be back in that room, sharing that experience, back in that community. So I think the hunger is going to win out. Over the cautiousness.
Do you think so too, Brian?
I agree. I'm also on the board of governors for the Broadway League, and put out this wonderful campaign called This is Broadway. And people are responding to it. I see them around town. I was stopped on the way in here today. And I also think it's good that the city itself has gotten on board with making sure that vaccines are mandated and people are checking, and to really instill confidence in our general public that we're going to keep them safe when they come to our theaters. And Broadway is doing it safely.
What is key to marketing Thoughts of a Colored Man in terms of getting that audience into the theater for you?
It's really just simply about telling people what the show is, telling them who's in the cast, and giving them a glimpse that it's not doom and gloom. So many times, characters that are seen through a Black lens are often doom and gloom. And there's just so much more joy in the Black community that is really, really not talked about very often. And a lot of that joy comes out in this story. It is very, very funny. It's very, very heart-moving. It's good.
And how do you convey the universality of it so that the people that are thinking of going to Diana actually should think about going to Thoughts of a Colored Man?
I love this question because oftentimes we like to separate the two, right?
Yeah.
We like to separate, okay, that's a Black male, and then there's other males, versus that's a princess, and then there are other people. But they're people. These Black men just happen to be Black, she just happened to be a princess, but they're both humans. And they're human stories. And connecting human beings or conveying the humanality is what conveys the universality, right? Specificity is universality is found in the specificity of something that you're sharing. So you've got Diana over here, which is a marriage that is in trouble. I don't want to speak for you, but keep me honest.
Yeah, no, you're totally on.
So
keep talking.
So it's a marriage that's in trouble. If you've been a married person, you understand when your marriage is in trouble because everyone has experienced that as long as they've been married. If you have a first love and your first love breaks your heart, you understand what it is to have your heart broken. If you're a person walking down the street and you've been misjudged, you understand what some of these men are going through in Thoughts of a Colored Man. If you are a father, an expecting father, if you've given up your big, one of the characters has given up his scholarship to MIT because his mother got sick and could no longer take care of his two younger siblings. So he stayed home. He now works at a grocery store because to support his family. People can relate to that. You can relate to caring for your family. That's where the universality comes in. There's no difference in them. It just happens to be 7 Black men that are sharing their life experience. This just happens to be a princess that is sharing her story.
And yes, please.
I was thinking about something you were saying about that the first time you read the script, you thought, I've never seen this before. I do think that so much of Broadway are shows you haven't seen before, right? I mean, there's new voices, there's new stories, and the world we're living in is so completely unfamiliar in every way, right? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? But this kind of deluge of new work is very exciting.
And the exciting thing, as you mentioned earlier, and you mentioned it as well, is the number of debuts that we're looking at. You have both Keenan Scott II and Steve Broadnax, the director, are making their Broadway debuts. What is exciting about that for you, Brian?
Broadway is a brass ring for every creative. Whether you are on stage or backstage, whether you're working in an office to work on the show, Broadway is a brass ring for theater creatives. To have Keenan Scott II making his Broadway debut, this young man who never thought Broadway was even in his world, from Queens, it's amazing. And I get so much joy when I see him say that and the way he looks at the billboard through his eyes, our marquee that's outside the theater. Steve Broadnax III is a man that's behind all of Dominique Morisseau's work, all of Katori Hall's work. They just won the Pulitzer for The Hot Wing King, and this man is just now getting his moment in the sun to touch Broadway. So God, I'm like, I tear up about it. It really just, it warms my heart because it's like a child on their first holiday, opening the first present.
And he comes in the line established by Lloyd Richards, by Kenny Leon, by George C. Wolfe. But he's also entering a world in which he isn't put in that box. That you're just not the new Black director. You're a director.
That's right.
And that is the atmosphere that he's coming into.
And I hope that stays. You know, I was having a conversation with Phylicia Rashad, and we were talking about actors. And a woman asked her a question. She said, you know, I am a Black actress in this day and time. She says, my dear, you are an actress.
It's important to make that.
I am more than the color of my skin. Steve is more than the color of his skin. He is a director who can direct Diana on stage or the movie, just like Mr. Ashley can. Keenan can write a story of color. He can also write a white story. He can write a transgender story. Like, these are artists, and they just need to be viewed as artists.
And in Diana, what's the most exciting debut?
Well, many of the ensemble, this is their first time on Broadway. And watching the first day of Tech when they walked onto that stage, and you could just see like, oh wow, it's this room that I've been dreaming about my whole life. Like that sense of awe and wonder and arrival is amazing. Our Prince Charles, Rohart Tremp, this is his first Broadway production, so there's a lot of first-time arrivals in Diana, and it's really exciting to work with it.
We have to wrap up, but I did want to wrap up with, of all the 7 personifications, love. Somebody personifies love. I think you can tell me who that actor is, perhaps. And also the fact, I think that he is the stand-in for the playwright himself, Keenan Scott II. I think. You may correct me on that. But
So,
talk about love in Thoughts of a Colored Man.
DeLon Burnside plays love in the show. And love is so significant in the show for all of the men in their lives. Their love for one another, right? Brotherly love. Their love for their community, their love for their family, their love for their mothers. Black women are on full display in Thoughts of a Colored Man in terms of the love that these men have for their wives, for their mothers, for their girlfriends, for their sisters. It's love really does, it sounds so cliche, but love really does conquer all. And the person playing love in the show personifies love. And the character permeates every single man in that show. And all you view in that neighborhood is an act of love. And it's the one thing that I think is so specific and actually so universal. We all have love for the places that we live and the places that we miss and the places we want to go to.
Well,
Love.
we all love Broadway. We're so glad that it's back, and we can only hope that it stays open again at this moment of history. So thank you so much for this engaging conversation. Break a leg on all the projects, present and future. And I thank you so much for joining us.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. We'll be back with another look at the bold and singular artists who live and work only to astonish us. I'm Patrick Pacheco.